Hey everybody, what is going on? My name is DJ and you are back with the Restaurant Growth Podcast by 7 Shifts. On this show, we speak with the best minds in the restaurant business to give you big insights and new ideas on how to help your restaurants grow. Today on the show, we are joined by Amelie Kang, the owner of MáLà Project in New York City. Amelie takes us through what it was like to open her first restaurant at the young age of 23, how her role has changed as they've expanded to 3 locations with a 4th on the way this year, what she hopes the future of restaurants looks like from a staffing perspective, and what to order in your Szechuan dry pot. As always, we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a line at podcast@7shifts.com to let us know what you think and who you want to hear. And with that, here is Amelie. Amelie, how are you today?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome on the podcast.
Thank you.
So we're so excited to have you. I could probably do an intro, but you could do it better than I could. Just tell us how you got your start in the food business.
Yeah, so I came to America to go to study culinary arts at the CIA. I came here about 12 years ago and studied the culinary arts management. After graduation, I started working as a manager at a Chinese restaurant called China Blue. And fast forward 2014, I left the company after I think it was 9 months because my visa was getting expired, and we decided to do something of our own, me and my partners. So we opened MáLà Project.
That's awesome. Did you always know you wanted to go to culinary school?
No, it was a last minute decision. I was looking for college to study media or advertising, something in the communication world, and I decided to change gear.
That's funny. I went the opposite way. All my family are all cooks. My dad teaches at culinary school as well. And I went the media route instead. So
That's so funny.
here I am. Yeah, I was like, I'm the only one. So, but it's still food related. But yeah, so MáLà Project opened 2014, and I know that you cook something called Szechuan dry pot cuisine. I know a lot of people are familiar with hot pot, but what is dry pot?
Yeah, dry pot is a communal pot where you can choose. You can make your own pot by choosing ingredients to your liking, from meats, veggies, tofu products, fish, chicken. So you'll have this beautiful bowl of ingredients that you choose, and we stir fry it with 24 different spices, and you enjoy it with some side dishes and a bowl of rice. So sometimes people have a bowl for themselves, and sometimes people share.
Very cool. So similar to hot pot in that regard, but without the soup or the broth.
Correct.
Is that something you grew up eating?
It got popular sometime when I was in high school, I think. So I started eating it once a week with my family when I was in high school.
Very cool. And what made you decide to open a restaurant surrounded around that dish?
So I was definitely very surprised to not be able to find any dry pot restaurant in Manhattan back then. There was one place in Flushing, but it's it's part of the food court, and you have to travel really far to get to. So I was kind of surprised by that, and I definitely miss that dish a lot. Yeah, and also the dry pot, I think it's somewhat easier in terms of operations. So, and I just thought it's a fun like eating format that's really like a New York. It's got the New York vibe because you can choose and like, people can customize. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned it's easier from an operations standpoint. In what way is that? Is it easier?
because the key of the dry pot is all in our sauce. So we make our sauce and we take hours and hours to make it, and it's super flavorful. But you can do that ahead of time. And actually, you have to do that ahead of time. And when it comes to the actual stir fry process, it's very quick and easy. And so less pressure on the kitchen and on the relatively.
So it comes out in one thing, but for the most part, I guess the prep is just the raw ingredients, and then it's mixed with the spices and the sauce, right?
Yeah, definitely. And there are 3 different sauces that go into it, and everything is all the sauces are prepped ahead of time.
Oh, that's awesome. So opening that first restaurant, kind of not fresh out of culinary school, but pretty recently out. What was that experience like? I know it was about 2015, so it's a little bit of a different world. But what were some of those things that you learned in that initial opening? And maybe what some of the setbacks or things that were unexpected about it?
Yeah, we definitely, I mean, I was 22 years old. I had no idea how the world works.
Yeah.
I definitely paid way more for the construction team than I needed to. And we didn't have a lot of money to work with also, so we were doing everything ourselves, basically, in terms of finding furnitures or interior design, even PR and marketing. I did it with my best friends. So that was a pretty good learning process. I didn't know that there's such a thing as the landmark buildings, where in order to do construction, you have to wait months and months. So there was, I think it was a 3 months period where we couldn't do anything but to wait for the permit to come in. Um, but I got my yoga teacher license and I bartended during that time, so it was fun and
You made
everything
it
worked
work.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, those landmark buildings are tricky. I know that they take a lot of like back and forth, especially with here in New York with like the city, the building department, and all of that. So, in the name of preserving some beautiful buildings, it can be quite the pain to build out and make some changes. But I think that it all works out. So I'm curious. So the name of the podcast, of course, Restaurant Growth. So you went from one location. Now I think you're up to 4 soon in Greenpoint. So I'm curious, did you always want to do more than one?
Not at the very beginning. We did the very first one, definitely just to a bunch of young kids didn't know what we were doing. But once we started working on the first one, that idea started growing, and once we received, we were very fortunate to receive a lot of attention right off the bat, and it was really good to see how customers are responding to it. And dry pot is definitely a dish that you can scale. So after I think probably a couple of months of opening MáLà Project, we started thinking about growth, and we had some interest to franchise and make it grow faster and bigger. And I was just like, whoa, this is way too fast.
Overwhelming.
Yeah, overwhelming. So we started just growing one by one, and now we're here. But at this point, I think we definitely have evolved. The team has grown so much also, and we have the confidence to scale faster now.
Absolutely. So what was one you opened the second location was at Bryant Park 2017, and then 2021 was the third one, right? So what were the differences kind of opening, I guess, in 2017 with that second location, and then going into an opening, kind of in the height of the pandemic? What was that experience like?
Yeah, the third location, it took us 2 years to open because there was the lockdown. And as soon as we signed the lease, we had to stop construction to go into lockdown. Um, I think in terms of the build out, everything's more expensive and takes a bit longer. And I mean, that's to be expected, yeah. And in terms of the market, we're still trying to figure out what the market like today, and what do customers like today compared to 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So it feels like we've become the students again, and all that experience we had before is you have to learn new things now.
Absolutely. And one of I think those biggest new things was going to the kind of the during lockdown with the to go. I know you have to go at all the locations. And what's the transition like with something that's so communal and so built upon being in the space and eating? How do you replicate that? And what was your strategy, I guess, in making to go available and eating out of the restaurant?
Yeah, for sure. We were lucky because since the beginning we had takeout and delivery, and we also have a lot of other dishes outside of dry pie, including fried rice and different, Chinese fried chicken and fried noodles. Those are very um, takeout and delivery friendly and leftover friendly. So we had a pretty strong foundation going into lockdown. And dry pot itself is a very takeout friendly dish as well. Um, and if you're in the household, I think people were still sharing food, and it was just a very versatile food dish that you can have for almost any occasion. So that was, I guess, a blessing. And also going back to what I said earlier about like dry pot being something that's really good for scaling because of the nature of that dish.
I think, of course, dry pot as a cuisine and those dishes are good for scaling, but, scaling, I think, is the people aspect of it. And something you mentioned is now you kind of have more of the confidence to scale with your team. What's been the changes like, and how have you evolved kind of as a leader since that first location?
Yeah, we were. I think when you have only one location, you're in the restaurant business, and me as the owner is a restaurant owner. So that means I was doing the day to day operations. I would do service. I would be the expo, and I would be on the floor and bussing tables with my servers. But since day one, I knew that we need to grow in order to have the team grow. So we have to be physically bigger in order to build a bigger platform for my team, or for whoever that want to maybe they want to learn new skills, or maybe they want to be at a new position. And we had to, so I was kind of prepared to grow my team like that. And so now having the fourth location and going into bigger expansion, my core team are all my original employees, and we all grew together from the floor doing service to now having to learn um, to work in a startup mode almost, and um, figuring out the job description of a director of operations, and figuring out how to form the team also, and how to function like a actual like a startup rather than a restaurant, which is it's a different format of working, almost like having to learn how to use asana, and so
Yeah.
all of that. So definitely, we're learning, but it's fun.
What were some of the hardest things about, like, some people I talk to, they say working on the restaurant, not in the restaurant, right? So what were some of those early challenges, and some of the hardest things for you to kind of let go of when you were, not busting tables anymore, we're not working the floor and moving into more of a leadership position?
Yeah, I was just completely confused about my own job description, and I when you're on the floor, you know exactly what to do. You have a checklist of you physically have a checklist of things that you need to complete, and you're done for the day. And when I had to transition that from almost like a restaurant manager to a leader of a team, I didn't really know what that day to day looks like. I mean, now I know but still, I'm still trying to adjust to spending most of my day learning and coaching the team and leading the team and setting visions and also networking with other people. But that doesn't have as much of a structure, and that just requires a whole new different set of skills. But yeah.
Yeah, it's less checklist based. So I imagine you're kind of like, you don't know what to do. So the inclination is to go back and kind of just like keep working in the restaurant, because you're like, well, at least I feel like I'm doing the work, right?
Yeah, and many times, even now, I still find myself wanting to jump into um, like a decision making process instead of letting my team handle it. So I have to physically pull myself back and just say, let people do their own job.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned your current kind of leadership team now was all original staff from the first restaurant. So just like people, servers and people that cooks and people that were working the floor with you.
Yep.
That's amazing. And how are you all able to transition together into that? Like, were there certain people that maybe weren't interested in leadership roles, or, did you put any systems in place to do that, or it just kind of happened naturally?
Yeah, people, I think it's, people want different things, and we didn't really anticipate this is gonna be what happens. We're very proud, and even just looking back, like the past year, we as individuals and as a team have all grown so much, and including the people that are still servers and um, still on the floor because they're the they're the ground. They're literally taking care of the restaurants while we are out just doing different things. But everybody is just committed to their own job. We, I think, pretty naturally people find where they belong or where they're most comfortable in, whether if it's out in the field searching for locations, or whether if it's on the floor at a home base taking care of the restaurants. And we just go at like along that, wherever they're most comfortable in, we try to develop along that line instead of um, kind of having the position set first and then put somebody in that position. We try to fit the position on top of that person almost. Yep.
So as you grow, creating the positions based on people's strengths rather than try and say, "Oh, well, now you're the manager," or "I need you to do this." I think that's like the benefit, right, of starting from one is being able to kind of grow into people's strengths and add people based on your weaknesses and do all of that. So that's really interesting. And that's like some pretty amazing retention, right? The original staff now is in leadership roles. How have you and your restaurants kind of fared with retention and staffing through what people are calling a labor shortage? Some people don't think it's a labor shortage. There's a lot of opinions about it, so I guess I'm asking, how are you doing it, and what do you think of the current labor situation in the restaurant business?
I think it's definitely very real. Last winter, we did have to suffer through that. Also, I think um, there's the bigger environment, and then there's the our own environment, our own world within the four walls, and so we're looking at different problems that we have to kind of navigate through within the environment of a physical restaurant. I think in terms of in terms of hiring, if you are able to get somebody to walk in through your door, give you their resume, you just have to show them complete respect and care. And but then once you are able to get them on the team, I think then it's up to the team to say, how am I going to take care of this person? And you're not trying to take care of this person because there's a labor shortage and you don't want them to leave. It's basically how are you maintaining this relationship with another human being? Um, and it's the same within the job, the working environment, or outside of the job, the working environment. You just, you need to show respect, you need to listen, you need to communicate well. And so, like, there's a labor shortage right now, and it might pass, but there's going to be a labor shortage in 4 years again, maybe. Can we do something about the service industry to make it suitable for somebody's career? Can you say, oh, I'm going into the service industry, and this is my lifetime mission because I love people, I love being on the floor. So can we increase, like, what are we going to do for people's benefit? What are we going to do for people's learning? Like, build a platform so that they can grow, or at least making sure that they're comfortable on the floor. So that's something that we have to think about.
For sure. And what are some of those things? Are you doing some of those things at MáLà Project right now?
we're hoping to where we have the the health benefit, 401k, have all of that set up. And to be honest, it's not easy for us. And we only started, I think it was this year or end of last year, we were able to put that in place. When we only had one or two restaurants, restaurants don't have the capacity to set up all of that, and let alone thinking about other benefits. But now we're fortunate enough to have it in place, and some people don't opt in, some people do opt in, but at least you have that for them. And even before, when we didn't have health benefit, that's not enough, because at the end of the day, people want money in their paychecks. Especially in this industry, most people are younger, and they don't necessarily care about your benefit, your health insurance, right? So we have to be really creative in terms of what you can provide for your team, and that doesn't have to be monetary. And I think people, if we try to make sure to make it very available for people. If you want to grow, we'll work something out for you. If you want to learn, we'll work something out for you. Try to do more tasting for people, or like making sure people know, oh, we're expanding. Are you interested in becoming the manager? Step forward, and we'll train you. So just make that really available, and do regular lineup where people can eat together, chat together, and maybe some other. We're trying to play with some other creative benefits, maybe yoga studio class pass, or even some other gym membership or Metro Pass. Um, so that's something we're hoping to get to this quarter, hopefully.
And all like just really great ways to, you mentioned just like when people come in, giving them that respect, and just like, coming up with ways to do that at a whole business level. It seems like you're doing. So like you said, the lineups, or giving people opportunity to grow in whatever way they want, or the whatever they're interested in, I think is all just like, from a business standpoint, showing them or creating systems to show people that respect, right, in a lot of different ways. And just like you said, taking care of the people, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not like business and employee; it's person to person, and that's kind of what hospitality is all about. Are there any kind of differences in how you're opening this restaurant now, or staffing it, or have you changed that up at all, versus the restaurants you opened in the past? It just seems like a very different world for restaurants, 2022, than it even was last year, and of course, we all know what happened before that.
Yeah, we previously we didn't really have an architect team or an interior designer team. This project, we partnered with a really good studio, not Love Is Enough, and they did La Crocodile. They did Rule of Third. Big fan. I'm a big fan of the work, and I'm very excited. So this is the first time we actually have interior designer behind, and also our architect team, our construction team. Everybody is just pros, and they're rock stars, and we're learning so much. So this is the first time we will be working with different teams, and that's something like also new relationships. You need to learn how to navigate, and it's expected that it's going to take a little bit longer, and more money, obviously. But I'm very excited to see what the finished product looks like.
Absolutely. That's exciting. And I think that's like the kind of thing that once you get to those third and fourth locations, you can really start to get into and bring on, and really grow your business that way. And I guess my last question is just kind of about the food, right? If I'm coming in and I want to order dry pot, I know there's a lot of different options. What are some of your favorite or go to, or what would you recommend for a first time, um, to get?
Yeah, first time. Typically, if you're coming by yourself, you can get maybe 5 to 6 things, and I can tell you the best bowl to get. The best bowl, or the bowl that I always get, which is sliced beef, spam, broccoli, konjac noodles, and lotus root.
And lotus root?
Lotus root. You can throw some whole eggs in there or with your mushrooms in there, glass noodles. Actually, there's no best bowl.
That's just your favorite, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Cool. And with that, looking forward to that second or that fourth opening, rather, excuse me. And that's in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, right?
Correct.
Awesome. And where can people find you if they're interested in checking you out?
We are on Instagram at MáLà Project. I am on Instagram as Amelie Kang.
Awesome. Thank you again so much for coming on the show. I think there's a lot of cool insights and takeaways for people, that are getting into those second and third locations, learning how to kind of pull themselves out of the business a little bit and trust others. And I think there's a lot of restaurant owners that are going through that, and it's always a challenge. So thank you for sharing your experience with us, and we're really glad to welcome you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks again for checking out the Restaurant Growth Podcast presented by 7 Shifts. We're so grateful to our listeners, and we'd love to hear from all of you. Send us an email to podcast@7shifts.com and check us out on social. We're at 7 Shifts on all platforms. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next week.